In this video, we're going to cover the Unix installation of AAI. Let's start with the basic requirements. We're installing on Linux, and the requirements may vary slightly from one OS to the next. Ultimately, the procedure itself is unchanged. AAI has a database, which has to be hosted on an Oracle system on Linux. At installation, AAI will look for a database and matching service, and you'll need one that's readily available, or configure your tnsnames.or file and configure your own. You also need admin privileges on Oracle and access to the SQL Plus system user. AAI also requires a JDK package version 8, since it is the only supported one. The JDK is usually available by default on most Linux distributions. Finally, we need the AAI installation package from Broadcom. Note that the installation is being performed with the root accounts. First, let's look at Oracle and the JDK. If it's a production Oracle instance, you'll most likely rely on your DBA to handle the database aspects. But the procedure is also intended for isolated or standalone AAI installations. You can download Express, then simply follow the instructions on the Oracle website. Make sure you have privileges to the Oracle OInstall and Oracle accounts, as well as access to SQL Plus. Download and install the JDK version 8. You need to update and source etc profile with the appropriate Java and Oracle variables. Again, just refer to the documentation. At installation, Oracle Express creates a pluggable database and a matching service. For 21C, the DB and service are called XEPDB1. Use listener status to identify the service, as this is quite important. When installing AAI, an existing database is needed, and the service is what it connects to. We'll need to provide the name of the service during install. You can either create and configure a dedicated one, but for our purposes, we'll use the default, since we don't want to spend too much time on Oracle itself. In the OS, we issue the listener status command. You should ignore all of them in favor of the one alias to the pluggable database. You should avoid the container DB because you'll run into a number of issues. Next, we look at the AAI installation package. Look for a specific terminology like engine multiple platform, install Unix, and so forth. First, we install AAI, we unzip the package, and then execute the executable .sh with a simple /. The wizard starts. This is just the name and location of the installation directory. You can change this to anything you want. You have the option of creating symlinks for the server invoker. This isn't critical to the installation, and you can just keep the defaults. You name your AAI server and give it a description. This isn't central to the install, and you can keep the defaults. This is the database connection configuration screen. We select Oracle as the DBMS, specify the DB hostname, the port, and the name of the Oracle service as we explained earlier. This particular field is very important. It must match the service we identified with the listener status command. Note that the AAI database has to be installed on the Oracle host. The wizard asks for the name and location of the different table spaces to populate the generation scripts. We recommend keeping the table space name defaults, and you can place them where you think is appropriate in your Oracle infrastructure. We'll keep the defaults. The user is AAI and the password is set to AAI in uppercase by default, although we're changing the password to lowercase so that we know with certainty what the password is. This is used by the server to log into the database, which we'll check when we start the config tool at the end. This tool logs into the database with this information. This information is used to size the database. You would have to enter an estimate for the number of executions that you think will take place in the scheduler instances and the number of days worth of executions you wish to retain in the AAI database. It's not critical and can be changed later. We recommend that you start working on estimates sooner rather than later. The last setting, the number of days worth of job stream runs, should be set immediately since making adjustments down the line will require inputs from your DBAs. If you would like to retain a year's worth of job stream run data, enter 360. Anything older than that will get purged automatically. AAI collects information from the schedulers it's integrated with. Typically, it sources events like process runs, as well as job definitions to build its own data. You can set those cycles, but ultimately there's no immediate need since we'll reconfigure them later. In the event you're performing a production installation, then you'll need to click the Yes Radio button for telemetry. You'll need to enter the information provided to you by your Broadcom enablement team. If you're just testing and running a dummy installation, select No. If you're planning on deploying SNMP or integrating with a mail server, you can enter the usual information for each of these. AAI installs. File systems are generally not owned by root, so we create a user and group, both AAI, and give the user a password AAI. Then we make the user the owner of the AAI file system. When we install, the number of scripts found in the scripts folder were automatically generated with some information. One of these scripts, createdevices.sql, creates the physical table spaces in the Oracle file system. It also creates a user with a profile, password, and default table space. It's also granted the connect and DBA privileges in Oracle. The default user has values between @ symbols. This information should match what we used in the wizards. Note that this is Oracle, which is quite strict with IDs. You should avoid symbols, especially $. Remove the double quotes from the user and passwords. If you're installing a production instance, you will need to increase these table space values in accordance with your future load volumes, or eventually you will run out of space. Use of table space auto extend features is ideal. Note that these scripts are meant to be templates that are provided to the DBA for review. The DBA should make necessary changes to the scripts to comply with site policies and naming conventions. We can now execute the scripts, which creates the physical table spaces on the user. We connect with the Oracle account and navigate to the scripts directory. Then we execute the command using the SQL+ system account. This is the syntax. SQL+ system / the passwords @ the host / the name of the pluggable database service we entered in the wizard, space, and the name of the scripts. You should follow the syntax rigidly. You may be tempted to SQL+ in without the pluggable database or refrain from executing the scripts. Connect to the container database and then alter session set container. This will work initially, but you won't be able to execute the second scripts. Follow this particular syntax. If you run into issues, for example, SQL+ tells you the user account is unknown, check the system password, the service, and the name of the Oracle host. You can ignore this error message, it's meaningless. Your table spaces and users were created and the privileges were granted. We have table spaces, now it's time to deploy the data structures. For this, we have the create JAWSDB.SQL script. JAWS was the name of the product before it was renamed AAI. We're running another SQL Plus command. The user is AAI using the password we entered in the wizard in the create devices script. The rest of the structure is the same. You must use the AAI accounts because these data structures need to belong to AAI, not system. If this does not execute immediately, you receive an unknown ID or container, retrace your steps, and make sure your information is correct. Your data structures have been deployed. The definitive proof that AAI is working is you're able to log into the web UI. The procedure is as follows. First, navigate to the root of the install folder and run the jaws.sh executable with the startfg or foreground option. This will take a few minutes. Wait until you see the string services are lazy, passive, or on demand. Start the config tool. Then in the browser, enter the URL hostname on port 8080 and the AAI web app. You'll be faced with a login screen. Simply use admin and password. The start foreground option only makes sense for troubleshooting purposes, since this is the first start. Moving forward, once AAI is working, we recommend using the background option.